Now it's NVIDIA, it seems like, and that's one of America's biggest chip companies, one of the world's, if not the world's biggest chip company. What exactly can we expect out of China, and how could it affect the global semiconductor chain?
Yeah, I mean, NVIDIA is a very widely held company, obviously here in the United States as well as globally. So I think it's the first time that you've seen a U.S. stock react to some of the political tension, some of the geopolitical tension between the United States and China. Certainly Chinese equities investors have gone very underweight because of those same concerns. And it just shows how interconnected the U.S. and Chinese economies are, why diplomats from those two countries should take a page from the business world, where obviously companies are getting well with one another just fine. I mean, actually, the China export-import data overnight shows that actually China's exports to the United States were very, very strong, showing that China needs the United States as well. It does look like, Dom, I did some looking at this situation, and it looks like the regulation, what this, the State Administration of Market Regulation, what they're looking at is specific to the Mellanox acquisition back in mid-April of 2020, that when NVIDIA bought Mellanox, they said that the company had to kind of unbundle some of its sales in China. So this investigation is about whether or not NVIDIA did fulfill that promise that it made to the Chinese regulators at the time. This says that if there is a violation, according to Article 58 of the anti-monopoly law in China, that they could be fined upwards of 10% of the previous year's sales. I don't know if that's the China sales, which, to your point, it's about low mid-teens to China. So it looks like it's a very specific issue about this one acquisition.
So I think you have to add to non-Mag 7 names and be considerate in the event you see NVIDIA dip under $130. You're going to see all these 500 ETFs that own NVIDIA, they're going to have to trim and rebalance. I think that could exaggerate a bit of a pullback here, not more than 5% or 7%, but that will make it more of an acute feeling because we become so acclimated and so used to the market just going up.
Yeah, that's a funny point, that if it falls, they'll have to trim, where you'd think, well, but wait a minute, if it falls, then they're bullish, shouldn't they add? Andres, same question to you.
Right, you have to even get to a point where, NVIDIA stops just like being dead money, which it has been for 6 months at this point. The semis trade pretty poorly.
They do.
So it's tough to reach for the obvious things that are going to support it. I just think if Goldilocks goes missing for a while, either on the growth or the inflation side, that's the big thing to worry about. Absent that, it's all just noise, and maybe we get, a proper pullback instead of just a 2% one.
Just distilling what you said before, Grasso, you're choosing IBM over Google. You're choosing IBM over NVIDIA.
Well, I think NVIDIA, right? So NVIDIA's top clients are its top competitors. So that the writing on the wall is there. Not that I don't think it can go higher, but I think that it's probably run its course right now and needs to pull back.
Thank you. I'll ask you this question then on the back of that. Who should be worried about this? I saw in your notes, probably not NVIDIA, not AMD yet, but somebody has to be.
Yeah, I think, there's some of the other quantum companies, there's private companies on that side, but I think on the public side, the worries are probably, because this is so far away. I think the piece that the rest of the Mag 7 needs to be contemplating here, and NVIDIA needs to be thinking about, is just what are they doing to have some sort of position within quantum computing. It's theory right now, but I think you have to pursue that theory, similar to when aviation was theory before we got flight. I mean, all of these things go from projects from the lab. And so I would say the potential losers are the companies that aren't doing that. And I think Google is standing alone right now within the Mag 7 in terms of their investments in quantum.
So you said 10 years away from commercialization, and what do you think commercialization could be? What is the field that could benefit the most from quantum computing?
I think it's as simple as AI. I mean, just the pure, you went through the numbers, basically going from an eternity to 5 minutes. I mean, it's hard. This is the kind of stuff, it's called superposition. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around the improvements in compute speed. And so I think probably the biggest beneficiary is just everything that's AI. I mean, ultimately, you have a company like NVIDIA. If quantum moves from theory to actually a production product, they need to have an answer down the road. And so the question, who's going to be impacted? What's the use cases on these? I think AI is probably front and center, and within AI, probably healthcare is one of the biggest initial areas.
Gene, great to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gene Munster, Deepwater Asset Management. We were just showing the chart of NVIDIA, and remember, NVIDIA fell yesterday on the back of the news of the China investigation. So it's interesting that it doesn't, it can't catch a bid today. And then we have this interesting supercomputing news.
Well, it certainly, this is a trade today about tomorrow. NVIDIA arguably could be, yesterday's trade today. I don't know, but I would look at the semiconductor space. You cannot single out NVIDIA. I would look at semis, which today hit another important relative value underperformance to the S&P, which takes you almost all the way back to February of this year, which was when they were going to the moon. So it's again, a relative value chart looks a little bit like a reverse head and shoulders on the way down.
Well, let's go back to the epicenter: data centers and enterprise software. Right now, we know that the world of artificial intelligence includes generative AI, accelerated computing, and now agentics. When people start investing billions of dollars in something called agentics, I might have to just throw the red flag. Simply because you won't find that word in the Oxford English Dictionary, even though I use it a lot. Now, it doesn't get any better if you use ChatGPT to get a definition. The genius that is ChatGPT tells us, and here I'm going to quote, the term agentics is not widely recognized or formally defined in mainstream English dictionaries or academic fields, but it appears to be a neologism that combines the elements of the words agent and dynamics, or potentially other suffixes like genetics or analytics, depending on the context. Whew. Now I understand. Now, if an agentic force like ChatGPT doesn't know what agentics is, how the heck are we supposed to figure it out? We do know this, though. It's NVIDIA that's been talking about agentics, as well as Salesforce.com. And NVIDIA stock is truly under attack from the sellers. It's been besieged for days now, down over $10 after a 4-day losing streak, with the damage getting worse when the People's Republic of China announced it's investigating NVIDIA for monopolistic behavior. I thought that might come to an end last night when Taiwan Semi, the manufacturer of NVIDIA chips, reported November revenue up an astounding 34%. And by the way, it looked for a moment like it would. But then the king of semiconductor engineering started a hideous rollover, one that spared no prisoners for anything related to the semis. Taiwan Semi closed down $7.23 or 3.6%. Brutal. NVIDIA fell $3.74, down 2.69%. What crushed the group, really? All right, there's a lot of shadow boxing here, but the proximate cause was the plummet in Oracle, which wants to be the biggest builder of data centers worldwide. Frankly, I thought the numbers were good, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. CEO Safra Catz stunned us right from the front, right from the get-go, saying that she expected cloud revenue, a spec not that long ago, should reach $25 billion this fiscal year. That's staggering, people. The rest of the call was all about the insatiable demand for more data centers and how Oracle can't build them fast enough. Larry Ellison, the revered chairman of the board and chief technical officer, told a story about how Oracle can build data centers faster and cheaper than anyone else on the planet, and they don't burn as hot. I was blown away when Ellison said, I quote, we just extended our AI performance advantage by delivering the largest and fastest AI supercomputer in the world, scaling up to 65,000 NVIDIA H200 GPUs, end quote. Think of it. We've got NVIDIA, we have supercomputers, we have demand, and then demand, and we have an amazing company, Oracle, that simply can't meet the demand. There's a reason 4 out of 6 analysts on the conference call offered effusive congratulations. That's the greatest endorsement they can give. But it was all for naught. Oracle stock got clocked from the moment the numbers printed, and it kept going lower and lower and lower because not every line was a blowout. More on that later, but most were, some not. And given that the stock was up 80% for the year before last night's report, we needed to see absolute perfection, and we didn't get it. Oracle's swan dive splashed red ink all over the fellow travelers. That's Dell, that's HP Enterprise, that's Supermicro. Ugly.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today. The S&P finished the day about 0.3% lower, and NVIDIA finished the day about 2.7% lower. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, I'm not at all concerned about the Chinese anti-monopoly probe of NVIDIA. I honestly think this situation is just short-term noise as the US and China go back and forth with their economic tensions. Ultimately, it would be crazy for China to stop NVIDIA from selling chips to Chinese companies, and I don't think China wants that to happen. It would be crazy for China to prevent Chinese companies from obtaining NVIDIA chips, since NVIDIA's technology is so far ahead of their Chinese competitors right now. And so again, I think this is just a short-term speed bump in the grand scheme of things. Another reason that NVIDIA stock was lower today is that Google announced that it has a new quantum chip named Willow that can solve problems in 5 minutes that would take one of today's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years to solve. That's the number 10 with 24 zeros attached to it. Quantum computing is a technological advancement that will likely have massive implications across many different industries. Jensen Huang has spoken about quantum computing in the past, and no doubt NVIDIA is paying attention to this and will play a role in quantum computing in the future. In the short term, though, this news out of Google was likely weighing down on NVIDIA stock today. As for the short term, I do want to point out that NVIDIA closed below the 50 MA on the daily time frame today. Typically, when this happens, NVIDIA hangs out underneath the 50 MA for at least a few days. We'll see what happens. Regardless of what happens in the short term, I am still bullish on the long-term future of NVIDIA, as the overall thesis surrounding NVIDIA and the build-out of AI data centers remains firmly intact. Sure, there may be some short-term turbulence along the way, but the long-term thesis remains intact. Demand for NVIDIA's Blackwell is insane. Hyperscalers have yet to show any signs of reducing their capex on AI. Jensen Huang has said NVIDIA will deliver more Blackwell in the fourth quarter than they originally anticipated. NVIDIA has a massive competitive moat across the entire stack that no company is even close to breaching, and we have a clear product roadmap from NVIDIA for the next couple years. This year, we get the launch of Blackwell Ultra in 2025, and Rubin in 2026. I think any talks about tariffs and this anti-monopoly probe are just short-term noise. As long as everything remains peaceful in the Pacific, and as long as none of the hyperscalers significantly reduce their capex on AI, then I think NVIDIA should be just fine for at least the next 1 to 2 years. At least that's how I view the situation. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.